Thank you, Aura, for sponsoring this video.
Have you ever been a victim of a data breach? Does it annoy you that these companies never get punished for being so careless with our data? Does it make you mad that the government can ban TikTok but won't protect our privacy and data from American companies? It's on us to protect ourselves. That's why I use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura keeps me safe online by doing all the hard work for me. They will identify data brokers who are selling my information and submit opt-out requests on my behalf. Give Aura a few weeks and you'll stop seeing your information on these sites when you search yourself, which will lead to less spam. Aura will also continuously monitor the dark web and alert me if they find my personal information exposed. They're going to let me know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access my credit or bank accounts. Plus, they give me up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. The Aura app also has a VPN with 100 plus virtual locations. Does your current VPN have all these other features too? You can go to my link at aura.com/KrystlynCrime to try a 14-day free trial. That will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Gianni Luigi Richetto was born on the 22nd of March, 1853, in a small town nestled in what was then the Kingdom of Sardinia. His early life, however, would be shaped by instability and hardship. His father, Luigi Richetto, squandered the family's inheritance on gambling, drink, and indulgence. Eventually, he fled to Turin, finding work in the tapestry section of the royal house. But his time there ended in disgrace around 1866 or 1867, when he was dismissed after being caught stealing silver lamps. In May of 1872, Luigi Richetto was once again arrested for theft. This time, authorities declared him insane, diagnosing him with mania and dementia. He was committed to the Royal Asylum in Turin, where he died the following year on January 14, 1873. Tragically, Gianni Luigi's mother, Maddalena, would meet a similar fate. She too was committed to the same asylum on January 11, 1881, suffering from what was then described as hysterical madness in a melancholic form. She died there on September 17, 1882. At just 10 years old, Gianni Luigi followed his father to Turin. There, he completed his studies at the professional school and later secured employment with the railway company of Upper Italy. But his path would also take a dark turn. In 1882, Richetto was arrested for robbery and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He served his time at Fossano prison and was released in September of 1887. After his release, he spent several months with his mother's relatives in Bussolino. With borrowed money from his sister, he left Italy behind and set out for France. His journey took him through Algeria, then Marseille, before he finally settled in Lyon on December 15, 1887. By 1888, Richetto had found work as a nurse. When his patient passed away, he remained in the household, working as a servant at their trading business. But this too ended badly. On December 16, 1893, he was dismissed for stealing wine from the cellar. Despite the theft, he was never prosecuted. Looking for a new start, Richetto trained as a shoemaker and opened his own shop in April of 1894. 2 years later, in June of 1896, he found more stable work, taking a position as a concierge at the Chameleon House on 96 Route de Francheville. It was the 2nd of January, 1900, when something strange was discovered on the Noack property at 116 Route de Francheville. 2 bundles were found, packages of meat, odd in shape and origin. 2 days later, in the presence of a rural policeman, a 3rd bundle surfaced. A local butcher was called in. He inspected the contents and, perhaps hastily, identified the meat as veal. With that assumption, the packages were quietly reburied on site. But the unsettling mystery would not stay buried for long. On January 5th, authorities returned to the property. This time, the search yielded 3 more suspicious parcels, and with them, a human torso. The next day, under the watchful eye of examining magistrate Alexandre Lacassine, the grounds were thoroughly excavated. What they uncovered sent shockwaves through the community. Among the findings were 2 human heads. Both had been carefully wrapped, bundled in old newspaper dated between April and August of 1897, and pieces of cloth. Lacassin filed a detailed report that same day. In it, he described the remains of two women. First, the remains of a woman, consisting of a skull with hair, a pelvis, and part of the spine. The skull, likely belonging to a woman between 60 and 70 years old, was missing its lower jaw. Her hair was gray, adorned with a fake braid, and a bun darkened with carbonaceous dust. The pelvis was intact, and the femurs cleanly severed with a saw. The condition of the tissue indicated transformation into adipocere, suggesting the body had been submerged in water for over a year. Then came the second body. 16 fragments made up nearly the complete remains of another woman, also around 60 years old. She was short, heavy-set, weighing approximately 70 kilograms. She was identified as a milkmaid, last seen arriving that very morning with a gardener. A hepatic test revealed she died while in the process of digestion. There was a wound on the top of her skull, a blow from a blunt object, perhaps a hammer. Bruising on her left breast indicated while she was still alive or in her final moments suggested intense pressure with a disturbingly distinct pattern. Just days later, on January 8th, a woman named Marceline Luce Catinat came forward. She identified one of the recovered heads as her mother, Augustine Panette. According to Marceline, the only person she knew in that area was a janitor named Louis, who worked for the local Camillian religious house. That man was Gianni Luigi Richetto. The very next day, police searched Richetto's residence. There, they uncovered old issues of the same newspaper used to wrap Augustine Panette's remains. That discovery, paired with the revelation of Richetto's criminal history in Italy, was enough for the deputy to order his arrest. A full search followed. Inside the building, bloodstains were found on the floor between two rooms. A woman's stocking initialed AC lay nearby, along with a receipt signed Madame Delorme. Behind Richetto's lodge, investigators found a large quantity of lime mixed with sawdust, commonly used to speed decomposition. And that wasn't all. A 34-centimeter kitchen knife buried in the ground on Camillian property, a foul-smelling suitcase stained with lime and sawdust. In the attic, the most disturbing evidence yet, blood and human fat soaked into the structure itself. Then, on January 26th, another grisly discovery. More human remains, hidden in a hedge in nearby St. Fons. The pieces of this horror were falling into place. As the investigation into Gianni Luigi Richetto widened, it became clear. The crimes on Route de Franceville were just the beginning. He was no mere suspect in a single murder. Richetto was soon implicated in the deaths of 4 separate individuals, spanning more than 6 years, and each case, until now, had remained unresolved. It began in 1893 with the death of Marie Pierrette Couturier, wife of François-Marie Lucien Bernays. Born in 1811, Bernays had married Marie in Lyon in 1849. The couple lived abroad for years, first in Buenos Aires, then in Montevideo, before returning to France in 1890. Back in Lyon, they resided at 55 Cours Gambetta, where they offered accommodation to a man they trusted, Luigi Richetto. On April 24, 1893, Bernays couldn't open his wife's locked bedroom door. With a growing sense of dread, he asked a neighbor to climb through the window. What they found was chilling. Marie Bernays lay fully clothed, face up on the floor, her face bloodied, bearing blows to the temple and deep scratches around her neck. Richetto was questioned 5 days later, but with a carefully constructed alibi, he slipped through the cracks. Suspicion briefly shifted to the grieving husband, but without evidence, the case was quietly closed. Then came Regis Planiel. A 55-year-old furniture dealer, Planiel vanished from his home on December 7, 1894. His front door was left wide open, the lamp still burning. His concierge reported him missing the next morning. 4 days later, a sailor made a grisly discovery, a bag floating near the island of Pierre Bennet. Inside it, the upper half of a human torso. Over the next year, body parts began turning up. A pelvis and thighs on Badet Island, a left leg in Lapuzen, and the right leg on the shore of Saint Island in Saint Rambert d'Alban. Dr. Alexander Lacassagne determined all the remains belonged to a single man, between 45 and 60 years old, approximately 170 centimeters tall. He had been stabbed multiple times with a long, sharp weapon, possibly a sword. There were ligature marks on the neck and signs that the beheading occurred while he was still alive or moments after death. In July of 1898, Marguerite Long, a 63-year-old widow, disappeared from her home. Her neighbors whispered theories she'd been ambushed for her savings, but the police found nothing to support the claim. What they did know then was that Luigi Richetto had visited her frequently. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Marguerite told others she planned to visit Saint Just, a pattern that would later emerge in another case. After Richetto's arrest, her fate became harder to deny. Several of her belongings, including a silver snuff box, were found in his possession. The final known victim was Augustine Pennant. Richetto met her in the early 1890s. Over time, he earned her trust, even assisting her in acquiring her dairy fund. She visited him regularly. On December 19, 1899, she told friends she was going to Saint Just. She was never seen alive again. What happened next was horrifying. She had been bludgeoned in the head, then stabbed 5 times. Her killer then violently stomped on her chest, crushing her ribs. Just 3 days later, Richetto, whose income was meager, suddenly began spending lavishly, far beyond his means. Each case, standing alone, might have remained a grim mystery. But together, they painted a chilling portrait, a manipulative, calculating predator hiding in plain sight, quietly killing over the course of years. And all roads, it seemed, led back to Gianni Luigi Richetto. Despite the mounting suspicions, Luigi Richetto was never formally charged in the death of Marie Benez. The case, though deeply unsettling, lacked the concrete evidence needed to move forward. And while the dismembered remains discovered in the Rhone between 1894 and 1895 bore haunting similarities to the missing Regis Planiel, investigators were unable to definitively prove the body was his. With no formal identification, Richetto escaped prosecution once again. But in the end, justice caught up with him. At trial, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty, on a majority of the charges. For his crimes, Luigi Richetto was sentenced to life in prison. His appeal, filed soon after the verdict, was swiftly denied on May 10, 1901. Just weeks later, on June 29th, Richetto was transported across the Atlantic to one of the most feared penal colonies in the world, Devil's Island, the infamous Salvation Islands of French Guiana. There, among the disease, isolation, and cruelty of the jungle prison, Luigi Richetto died on December 14, 1901. He was 48 years old. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video entertaining. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out and lets you know when new content drops. Don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.